Discovery Roger, go for deploy.
And we're back. Hey, dude, what's going on?
What is this?
I don't know. I was honestly trying to be a little bit Joe Rogan. But
Joe Rogan. That was Joe Rogan.
Well, actually, no. This
Is
is
that what
me.
Joe Rogan does?
No. This is me doing Joe Rogan. Alrighty, motherfuckers. That still sucked, didn't it? Who was that? Was that more? That was more. That was more like, you know that dude that intros every movie. He was a man. She did ballet.
She was also a man.
Can I make it any more
Well,
obvious?
he used to be a man.
He used to be a man.
Now he's a she.
Because
and
he
likes to be referred to as a she because it's politically correct to do so.
But sometimes he likes to be referred to as a he because he's more gender fluid than transgender.
He's able to use any bathroom he likes.
He's able to work into the male and the female, which I think is very cool.
And rather weird, but very, very cool.
Very cool and rather sexual.
He's able to watch children. Wait. I thought that's what we were doing.
Hang on.
So that's what we were doing.
We're not going down the pedophile area there, Bill.
I apologize.
We're not getting pedophilic. Hey guys, welcome back.
Welcome back to Adventure Radio.
Wow.
You've already had one show for the new year, but here's your second.
Yeah.
This is the real welcome back, because this is the first time me and Tommy have caught up in the new year.
It is.
And we have a fucking funny show for you today.
This is a good one, isn't it?
It's actually so educational.
Yeah, it's very
I learned
educational.
a shit ton of stuff.
He was a man.
Yeah, I learned about that guy.
He is a man.
Yeah, he was a man. John Nicolosi, the dude.
John Nicolosi's a man.
So he used to be.
He used to be
John
a woman.
Nicolosina.
Well, he used to be Jennifer Nicolosina. Yeah.
Right.
He used to be a woman, but now is
John Nicolosi used to be a woman. Now goes by the name of John.
In 2017, we introduced to you. Nothing.
Oh shit!
I thought I was going to have something there.
Anyway, guys, the show's John Nicolosi is a
friend of the show.
Very, very learned man. He's every time I sit down with John Nicolosi, I'm enthralled from his knowledge about health and fitness, and
He's very, very short.
He's so absolutely 100% hairy.
Yes, very hairy.
It's
very petite.
Yeah.
But Jeez, he's a good man.
Yeah, he's
really love him.
Well, he's not a good man. He's not a really good man.
He's an average man.
He's very, very.
He's a man.
Yes, he's a man.
He's a man. He's a man.
I don't particularly like him that much.
Yeah, I hate him. I'm gonna.
You'll actually see from the show that Tommy and John very much so actually hate each other.
We don't like each other at all. Yeah.
Tommy ruffles his feathers, and if you could see the daggers that John was passing.
Yes. Now, Johnny and I have a bizarre relationship.
Yeah, you have a hate-hate relationship.
It's an open relationship.
Yeah.
Look, I'm seeing other people.
Yeah, I'm hating other people.
I'm boning other people. sorry, Jennifer.
Anyway, so this show it's actually really educational. It's a fantastic conversation.
We love Johnny.
Tommy rubs John up a few.
That sounds shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy rubs him off.
I told him I told him he used to be a girl.
Yeah, well, okay, that's good.
Still has the old
This is ridiculous.
John's going to turn this on and listen to this show, and he's going to turn it straight off.
Well, what are these boys talking about? We should go to the sponsors.
So this show is brought to you by Audible.
Yes, it is.
Head to audible.com and use the code word. What's the code word?
ADVF radio.
Is it?
No, it's ADVF. It's ADVF.
No, head to audibletrial.com/ADVF. Sorry, guys, we've had about 3 weeks off recording. So head to audible.com to check out all their range of audiobooks, guys. You'll get 30 days free, and you also get one free audiobook. It's the best service on the internet. You'll absolutely love it.
It is Unreal Madrid.
We are also brought to you by Carve. Carve are a VA service, guys. So they're over in the Philippines, and they outsource. You can outsource your work to them, and to check those guys out, you can get 10 hours free. I have three assistants. Me and Tommy have one for the podcast. I have two for Adventure Travel, and those guys are absolutely fantastic. So to check them out and get 10 hours free, head to www.carve.ph/ADVF. And sorry for the intro. I had fun.
I had a lot of fun.
Hopefully people still listen at this point.
Yeah, but if they don't, fuck them. Here's the show.
Yeah.
Here's the show.
Here's the show.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Welcome back to Adventure Radio. We are back for round 2, round 1 for the listeners, because unfortunately Me and Tommy aren't the most. We're quite adept when it comes to.
We suck.
Yeah, at holding on to the files, and we actually lost a show with John, so we suck, and we've got him back on the show.
We got him back on the show.
Didn't want to bring it up, but the boys said that they were going to make light of it, so I thought we may as well get it out of the way. Yes, we did lose the show. All right, so before we throw over to Johnny and welcome him in, Tommy, as usual, is going to push razor blades in our ears. No, just joking, Tommy. That's a joke. It's a
Johnny,
game.
the thing I love about this is that Johnny I've never seen a man more uncomfortable when I sing him a tune, so that's great. All right, this is a song confessing my love for John. It's called I've physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally fallen in love with John, so... Sounds nice. Now when I have an injury and I can't move like Jet Li, John's the man I'd go and see, because he's a real beauty. Oh yeah, he's a jack of all trades. At school his grades were all A's, at least what he tells me. I'm sure that would have got him laid, or maybe not, even though his clothes look all homemade, because I fall in love with John. And he's a physician, that didn't even rhyme. And in addition, I've really put him in an uncomfortable position. Look at that face. Oh, it's so good.
If you didn't think that, if you didn't know you two were mates, you'd think that he genuinely hates you.
Hates you.
He probably does genuinely hate you.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel as though we're mates, but in his mind, he definitely hates me. G'day, Johnny. G'day, fuckwit. Good to know we're still.
John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No worries. So, what have you been up to since we
last didn't talk to you.
No, yeah, that's right. The guests don't know who you are. So, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
So my name's John Nicolosi, Melbourne born and bred.
Good man.
Original training was as a physio. When I did a master's in exercise science, specialising in strength and conditioning, and over the last 3 or so years, put together a business with a few colleagues that sort of aims to help with both sports injuries and performance for athletes. We try and specialise in trying to help people, probably not obviously the ones that are completely at elite level, because they're usually in a professional sporting environment, but those people that are trying to aspire to get there. We work with a lot of particularly track and field athletes. That's my background in sport, but a lot of people playing sort of AFL or VFL level, for those who are from Australia and Melbourne who understand that level of sport, and work with a lot of CrossFit athletes, weightlifting. At the moment we're involved with hockey and soccer. So yeah, that's pretty much the background of what I've been doing for the last 3 or 4 years.
Were you actually a track and field athlete yourself?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Sprints. I was as good as a junior, but not much after that.
When everyone's femurs start to outgrow your femurs, then
I'm not the tallest of humans.
He's femurically challenged, so to speak.
It's good for sitting on a plane only.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. So, how does it feel to be working with these athletes to try and get them to the next level? Does that give you like a really good drive to try and say young kid comes to you and they want to qualify for an Olympic team in hockey or they want to aspire to be an AFL footballer? Like, what is that like trying to get them to their dreams, so to speak?
Look, I think I'm reasonably pragmatic about that, and I think it's always about sort of setting targets that are achievable. Often the biggest way of achieving that and giving them the opportunity to do so is by setting things that are achievable in terms of the progressions. And it's always about progress for me. I'm not really necessarily always that outcome driven. We sort of set, okay, these are the targets we're hitting for this period of time, and we sort of just keep ticking them off as we go. For me, it's always about sort of execution rather than necessarily what the outcome is. I always feel that if you sort of you aim to sort of hit your execution points, you probably reach your target anyway.
Okay, cool. So what type of goal setting do you do with your athletes? Do you have specific competitions in mind that you'll have to train for, or if you have an off-season period, do break it up into 3-month chunks, or how do you go about actually setting goals? Obviously, maybe taking outside of the competition side, because if a competition's a competition.
Yep.
But in maybe an off season, how do you break that up?
Well, it really depends on who we're working with. Obviously, I'm not the technical coach for sports like soccer or hockey or whatever, so that's more working in with the actual coaching, the actual specific head coach or coaching staff to work on that, or technical directors for some of those at sporting clubs. Whereas part of what we do as well is we sort of facilitate and coach an elite track squad. So with that, we're sort of facilitating everything. So with those guys, to give you more example, yes, I break those periods into sort of smaller, as you know, like macro cycles and stuff like that. But essentially, like the system that I tend to sort of be closely, like have an affinity with is more of a sort of a complex sort of training sort of system where we're trying to attack most things at once. I'm sure most of your listeners have probably heard of, block training and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
We don't tend to do that where we work on one or sort of have a much big emphasis on one aspect only. So I tend to be working on most things all of the year. The other big thing that sort of falls into that is like my biggest thing, particularly with the off season, is and for those listeners that have any interest in sort of track and field, they probably have heard of the name Stu McMillan. He has a really good blog called McMillan Speed. But, like I really liked the fact that he sort of brought up the idea that in the off season, it's not so much about sort of pushing a lot of volume or training load into the athlete. It is in some respects, but most of the time that's a skill acquisition period. Where you can actually spend a lot of time trying to refine what the task is that they're trying to do. Now, I know obviously your background's in like weightlifting and stuff like that. And I'm sure you've probably seen different approaches where some coaches are spending a lot of time just murdering the athlete in the sort of the non-competition period. But then there would be other coaches who are just like, we need to refine this technique down because at the moment you suck. And for me, that's sort of what I'm working at. With my athletes that are track and field based, most of the time, a lot of their skill acquisition is around their running mechanics, acceleration abilities, and we're slowly building up their strength capacities in the gym. It isn't obviously a good opportunity for us to push them a bit harder, particularly in the gym and stuff like that. In the competition period, they just fall apart if we start pushing those gym entities too much. But yeah, in general, for me, like the off season is more. I try and, if there is any sort of block strategy that I use or break down into sort of, cycles, it's usually around skill acquisition. It's like I'm going to focus on this part of their execution at this time, and then I'm going to keep working that up. Now, that differs very much when I'm working with like the soccer or hockey guys. For them, there is a much greater focus on some of their physical abilities, and at times, this is obviously partly to do with what the coaches want. The actual technical coaches want. A lot of the time they're doing the skill acquisition stuff. So from my end, I'm working on the physical capabilities, whether that's speed, whether that's agility, change of direction abilities, strength capacities, and obviously in those sports, it's repeat sprint ability, underlying anaerobic and aerobic conditioning. So with them, I'm probably pushing them more on their physical capabilities and their training time that they spend when they're doing technical stuff. I'm not always dictating a lot of that. So that changes how I sort of structure it for them.
Right. So you're kind of like a jack of all trades to some degree because
John of all trades.
John of all trades. Sorry, it's John, isn't it?
It's John. Yeah. We're not speaking to Jack Nicolosi here.
Because so basically you'll just do whatever's needed for that particular sport that you're working with. So you might work on rehabilitation stuff physio wise, or you might write actual strength and conditioning programs, or you might do breaking down of technique, which in the sprinting field, I suppose. Yeah.
So like, I'm fortunate in the respect that I took the time to go and do, like, it was one of the big things that after I did my physio sort of degree and was working with athletes, I sort of very quickly realized I actually don't have enough understanding of the training side of things, and even sort of how to apply sort of training principles. So I sort of forced myself to go back to uni and do the master's degree, which has completely changed the way that I sort of approach things. I try not to, as you said, like I like the idea of being a bit more generalist in nature. And I don't necessarily like often being sort of labelled one thing or the other because I think that sort of limits you in what you can sort of do. So yeah, often if I'm looking at an athlete or working with an athlete, I'm trying to keep all of those aspects in check. So what's the health of the athlete? What are the factors that go into that sort of making sure they're healthy? And then what are the training applications that they need for both them as an individual and their sport? And how do we sort of write a program that addresses all of those things? Keeping in mind what their overall load might be for competition or for the upcoming sort of pre-season or whatever it is, or what the injury history is like as well. Some people you have to sort of over-program certain things because their injury history is as long as your arm.
Yeah. So let's touch on one specific area that you mentioned, which is like power athletes.
Yep.
So you want to build someone who's every sport, basically, especially team sports, nearly every sport, you want to have someone who's powerful.
Yeah.
You want to kick long, jump high, run fast, be evasive in whatever. Then you want to you on the gram over there, Tommy?
Yeah, just on the gram. Just got a few likes now, and
that's good. It's good. Thanks for engaging in this conversation. Do you want to?
That's right. I was actually trying to upload a video
if you want,
for us.
we'll turn your mic off if you like it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty hungry, guys. I'll see you in a bit.
So my question is, like, building a power athlete that'll transfer over into any sport, really. But like, if you want to build the most powerful, explosive athlete, then what type of stuff do you put into place? Because we know how to get strong, but not everyone understands exactly how to be powerful and where the differentiation is there. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this is sort of the area that I think is starting to get more and more interesting, is the idea of sort of profiling athletes and sort of working out where their strong points or their limitations might be. So for those who are interested in sprint research, there's a group based in France led by a researcher called JB Morin, and he was more looking at sort of sprint athletes, but looking at their profile. Are they someone who uses high frequency, or they're very powerful, or they're very strong, or they really like to apply horizontal forces or vertical forces when they're running? Now, not that that's overly relevant, but essentially, when I get an athlete, it's like I try and work out what kind of athlete they are, where are they limited, where are they not limited. So obviously in a more complex sport, say like AFL football, they need lots of different skills, and you need to obviously ascertain what is going to differentiate them in their abilities to someone else, and where do you need to sort of go with that, and what have they been exposed to. So obviously, as you said, the speed and power are probably the biggest two differentiators in all team sports. Even though, for instance, here in Melbourne, we tend to have a really strong affinity with aerobic conditioning for some reason.
Yeah.
Now that is extremely relevant. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think sometimes we underdevelop some of those capacities, and I think it's actually why we see certain injuries in AFL at a high prevalence, including things like ACLs, than we do in other sports.
Really?
Yeah. Like I did an analysis. It was very brief myself, looking at ACL injuries in rugby versus AFL. Now there is obviously a lot more change of direction in AFL, and there are people coming from multi directions rather than just head on. But the proportion of ACL injuries is much higher in AFL than it is in rugby. And in rugby, you'd think with the forces that they're generating when they're tackling, you'd think it almost would be higher. But I think that the huge strength base that a lot of those rugby athletes has, and the more speed and power nature to the way that they train, actually probably is protective for them.
See, I've heard a lot about AFL pre-seasons, and like even when they're in the realm of pre-season, it's all just very much like running, and there's not a whole lot of like, the fact that AFL athletes don't do any Olympic weight thing, I believe is astonishing. I don't know too much about it.
Some clubs do, some don't. It just depends on obviously who the staff are and what their experience is.
Yeah, but isn't it in rugby the pre-season a lot more focused on strength and power and speed?
It is, but you obviously have to put that in context of what the sport is and how it actually, like an AFL player is probably going to cover 12 to 15 kilometres per game, whereas a rugby player is not. They may be covering 6 to 7 kilometres a game. So it is a very different sort of way. And the way that the game is set up, we say like NRL, there's a lot more stop-start. There's a lot more accelerations and decelerations, whereas AFL is a lot more continuous and open play. So, coming back to the original question, it's all about sort of identify what that person needs, and then it's putting together all the pieces. Is why is that person not powerful? are they actually lacking fundamental base strength? If that's the case, then, they may need to spend a pre-season working on fundamentals like squatting.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they actually lack the ability to convert that strength into power? And you might use in that phase, you might be working on more things like Olympic lifting and variations of such, plyometric type tasks. Or is it a coordinative ability that they're really lacking? Some people are really like and I've got athletes like this. They're really powerful. It's not an issue. They can jump and they can bound and they're really good with plyometric tasks. And
Just retarded.
They just can't transfer it.
They just don't transfer it. And a lot of the times, again, that comes back to the skill side of things. So for them, when you're creating exercises, it actually needs to be very closely translate to their sport. So whether that means use of things like sleds, prowler tasks, acceleration abilities, change of direction under load. Those things are the ones that actually have the ability to transfer most to their sport. And that's all of those factors go into it. So, when you're designing it, it's okay, where does this leak occur? And that's often an issue. The hardest part is often identifying it.
Do you often have or do you ever have athletes that come in, and these are like in some sports it'll just be straight to the cream of the crop, which just come in and they tick all the boxes. So they're born naturally strong. They have the ability to transfer that because they have that fast twitch muscle fiber, and they are coordinated as shit. Like, do you often have people walk through the door and you're like, here we go?
Well, the first time I walked into your door, you got a bit excited. Pants were off.
How's I just got a delivery coffee? I feel bad for the boys.
We got nothing. Me, Johnny.
I'm on the keto. It's a bulletproof coffee, so I have to have it. Otherwise, my brain fog will inhibit this conversation.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So go on.
You're not really into that sort of stuff, are you? Like natural ability and like. Well, what's your take on?
What'd you say? You're not into that
natural
sort of
ability.
You're not into natural ability. You're not into natural ability guys. You need one of these, Tommy.
I probably need a ketogenic coffee.
Yeah, you do tend to see it sometimes, and often those abilities have been developed in some ways. As I said, my biggest exposure to sort of high-level athletes is in track and field athletes. For instance, a couple of years ago, he's now actually not competing, but he was a hurdler who went to the Commonwealth Games in 2014. He started doing some work with me probably the start of last year, probably more on the physio side of things, but I would actually look after some of his... I'd be more observing some of his gym work for his coach that was actually based in Brisbane at the time. And this is a guy who is extremely powerful, extremely fast, really well coordinated. As a kid, did lots of different events. At one point, he was sort of training for the decathlon. And after not... I said to him, what are you sort of working on at the moment? And he said, we're trying to convert some power. I said, are you doing any Olympic lifts? And he said, look, I've done some in the past, but no, not at the moment. And I said to him, I'll have a chat to your coach for you. And I spoke to his coach. His coach said, yeah, no problems. If you're happy to look at them and watch him, then I'm happy for him to do him. I just wasn't sure if he was doing him on his own, whether he would be looking after himself or whatever. First day into the gym, I said, let's have a look. And I said, how much experience do you have? He goes, with one coach, I did about 6 months worth of lifting, but not a huge amount. Picks up the bar, 60 kilos, hang clean, easy, 80, easy, 100, easy, 110, easy, 120, easy. And I just said, okay, we'll stop there for today.
Really?
And this is a guy that's 70, he's probably about 77 kilos.
Years old.
What's that?
77 years old.
I think he's about 77 kilos.
Really?
6'1", 6'2", maybe a little bit taller even. He's a hurdler. And just easy. It wasn't a stress for him at all.
So he's
super
just
quick.
insanely powerful.
Yeah, and these people exist.
Sport.
Yeah, these people exist. He probably didn't have the mobility to do anything overhead. He's just pretty stiff. Yeah. And I don't even know whether he could have got into a full squat position to even catch it. But just traveling from his hip to his to the front rack position was just easy for him. And I spoke to his coach about it, and he said, yeah, like, let's just keep it in the pocket. I don't want to be crushing this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He'd had a number of injuries that sort of ultimately did lead to him he's actually sort of semi-retired at the moment. But yeah, like, they exist and you see them from time to time and you kind of just like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And then, other times you get the more interesting one sometimes is the anomalies that you get in. Like at the moment I'm doing the gym programming, helping out a colleague of mine, a coach that's got a really high level track squad. And there's a young guy that's come in, he finished third in the nationals of the 200, this last season just passed. He's 6'2" and he weighs 63 kilos.
Whoa.
Couldn't clean 30 kilos when we started.
Whoa.
What a loser.
Struggled to squat 60 kilos.
Yeah.
Right, but he's just super quick. He's like a greyhound. He's not strong. And they're the ones that are kind of interesting and fun. Like they almost surprise you. Like one of the first tests we did was just a basic baseline strength test. He's got really poor mobility as well. So we did a trap bar to see what his actual, strength was. 75 kilos was him maxing out.
Really?
Like he nearly blew his, brains out trying to lift it off the ground.
Blew his Hamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Wow, that's incredible. So, I actually want to rewind the conversation a little bit, just back to the ACL frequency in AFL football. So you tell me, like, or what if you were a strength and conditioning coach of the AFL, the whole umbrella, you were the general strength and conditioning coach.
I don't think that position exists.
Mr. John AFL Aussie.
I'm putting it out there if they're listening.
They're definitely not.
But if you were the strength coach of the entire AFL and you could change the way that they trained, surely the sport would change a little bit. But like, why are we having so many ACL reconstructive injuries?
Well, it's multifactorial. Like, some people just have shit genetics. Some people don't have high tensile load in their ligaments and tendon structures. Some people have what they call like a sloping tibial plateau. So they're at a higher risk. And it does tend to have sort of genetic links. So you'll find the people who one of their parents or both of their parents have had ACL injuries, they tend to have them. The big thing that I would suggest, and one of the reasons is I think there tends to be a lack of development of strength early. So a lot of it's starting to change now because the systems are getting better with things like TAC Cup. But they're not exposing kids to strength training at 13, 14, 15 years of age. It tends to be 17, 18, 19, which I think they've lost a really big development window.
Yep.
And I think we did speak about this last time. If you look at the relevant literature out there, a researcher called Myers, and the other one's Avery Fagenbaum. If you have a look at their work, there's a really interesting paper that he did, I think it was in 2011, that showed essentially when you start your strength training or neuromuscular training, that might be, change your direction, plyometrics, speed, all of those coordinative tasks, strength stuff. When you start that, the earlier you start it, the higher your ceiling is.
Yeah.
And then we spoke about this last time. We see it particularly in your sport, in weightlifting. The reason Australians suck compared to some of these power
Eastern
nations,
Europeans,
one is drugs, the other is how early they start.
Yeah.
They've got these kids lifting at 6, 7, 8 years of age. We start lifting at 13, 14, 15. We've already lost 5 or 6 years of development. And what he showed in his study was if you start them pre-puberty, their ceiling is higher than if you start them during puberty, and it's even higher than if you started them after puberty. So,
yeah. Well, what's the science behind that? So the studies have shown that, but what is there science? What's your reasoning behind?
Yeah, I don't know what the clear mechanisms are. I think that they sort of postulate a few different reasons behind it, but I think the main ones are that you're starting to lay down some of the motor pathways, and you're starting to create within your neural network. You're starting to create some of those chains that allow you to start putting some of those systems together. In my mind, particularly something like strength, and coordination and power, a lot of those things are driven by the brain.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily driven by the peripheral tissue. And you see that, and it's probably like the biggest and the easiest way to almost see it for someone who, like yourself, who's in weightlifting is the gaps are not that big between the smaller guys and the bigger guys, yet the size of the athlete changes enormously. And so you see that a lot of that fundamental strength and power that develops is already there up to a certain point, and then you need to start adding mass in order to get a little bit greater. But as I said, like I think most of it is driven by central nervous system changes, and we see that even in things like language development or musical ability. The earlier you started it,
or lack of musical ability.
Lack of musical ability.
yeah, well, you probably started. You probably started late.
So I'll probably be the outlier here because I started in grade 1 and I'm terrible at music. So it's interesting.
What about so basically for people that aren't too, to break it down the way that I understand it. So what you're saying is, because say I have big strong muscles and lots of fast twitch muscle fibers, that's all well and good. But if I don't have that neurological pathway really, really strong inside my brain, then I might be able to capitalize on 60% of what I've got in my muscles, rather than if you've trained over and over, you're able to apply more of the power that you actually have in your body. Is that a layman's terms way to break it down? Or?
Yeah, yes and no. I think
More yes though, right?
A little more no.
It's funny you say that, because you tend to find that these fast twitch athletes are kind of wired a little bit differently as well. So, and most of the time, and I'm sure even with your exposure to athletes that they tend to have interesting personality types as well. Definitely not you, Tommy.
Damn it, I thought I was an anomaly.
So, they're the people that would probably have already been exposed to sport in some way anyway, because they're the super active people who don't turn off.
Tick.
That's their personality. So it's unlikely that they've just been sitting on the couch, but they're jacked and they got their fast twitch. But at the same time, you're correct in the sense that if you're not developing those pathways, they're not going to be sort of meeting the potential that they potentially would have had. And that's about sort of, again, we go back to how if you profile that athlete early and you identify, okay, we think this person may have the capabilities, then you start to put in place those training parameters to see whether you can improve those capacities.
So for AFL, for example, if we got them squatting, I'm just thinking of it straight away. Squatting, putting the knees out, get really good glute control, you decrease the risk of ACL injuries. If you were squatting at a really young age, their motor patterns are more likely to move that way. Even though you don't necessarily squat on the playing field, when you go into some form of hip flexion, you're going to be moving in a safer way than if
it's more about so obviously the more exposure you get to any form of sort of resistance under load, the better your joint structure and sense and your ability for your joint to assess what's going on will be. Obviously there needs to be that conversion from, squatting is a very closed skill. You're standing there, the environment's usually reasonably well controlled.
Yeah.
And you can actually carry it out, without any disruptions. In obviously AFL, you might be running, changing direction, someone's chasing you and trying to bury you in the ground. So you still need to expose them to those tasks and actually teach them sort of some of the items that may be protective, that might have to do with foot placement, or expose them to things like plyometric tasks that allow them to actually regulate how stiff they keep their lower leg or their whole limb as they land. But again, that's stuff that you can expose them to in training, basics, starting with things like box jumps and then landings and single leg hops and all that kind of stuff. The more you expose them to that, the better their skill will be when actually carrying that out in a more open environment. Now, as I said, because it's multifactorial, it's not, you're never going to eliminate all of these injuries, and then you'll have the horrible ones like, I don't know if you guys ever remember when Robert Harvey did his knee.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I remember the incident. I remember it happening, but I don't remember the incident.
Yeah, so Robert Harvey did his ACL, but what happened was he was in a pack, stood up, went to handball the ball, and another guy had sort of was tackling him in a standing position and twisted his body over his knee. So essentially, it was kind of like the guy ruptured his ACL by sort of blocking Robert Harvey's knee and then twisting him over the top of his own knee.
But you prepare for that when you squat, surely.
So, some of those ones you're not going to be able to protect. They're just traumatic injuries.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't help it. But there's definitely been an increase in ACL injuries, like you're saying.
Yeah, I
And
think
innocuous ones. Really
yeah, the last few
innocuous ones.
years has actually sort of held true or dropped a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, those ones, those change of direction ones, those ones where there isn't someone actually behind them, they actually should be reasonably not easier. That's not the right word at all. But they should be able to be minimised.
Yep.
In my mind, at least. Now, as I said, it doesn't eliminate them, and I know that a lot of these things are being done in clubs. So, what we're seeing is probably a reflection of a lot of this input already being put in. It may be also, though, that some of the athletes that you deal with are not necessarily coming to the clubs with that foundation already in place. Yes, they can play football, and yes, they can read the game, but physically they may not be underprepared. And that's not the staff's fault.
They can probably do a 15.8 in the beep test, but they probably can't squat 50 kilos.
Exactly, yeah, and that's an issue that they and the way that the draft system is now, they're sort of pumping up this idea of a combine and all that kind of stuff. It's very heavily weighted to some of these things. Like selectors love the fact that someone can get a 15.8 on a beep test, whereas I think getting a 15.8, although it's impressive, it's actually reasonably easy to improve someone's aerobic abilities.
Yeah.
But if they haven't had 4 or 5 years of neuromuscular training behind them, it's very difficult to catch them up.
Well, that's the thing that I don't like about it, is because, selectors love someone, like you said, who can run 15 out on a beep test, who's like 200 centimetres and, just has the makings to be a great, AFL player in the long run. But based on that idea, you look at someone like Brent Harvey, who's 172 centimetres. Now, he's never going to get selected under the new regime in the next 10 to 15 years, and yet he's played the most games in the AFL.
Heavily femurically challenged.
Brent. Yeah, heavy femurically challenged. So why do you think these old wives' tales still exist about resistance training being bad for young kids?
I think the biggest reason is just a lack of knowledge. And particularly in Australia, historically, we don't have a strong affinity to things like strength training. You brought up like Eastern Europe. I've got a close friend that's Iranian, and where his family's from is where all the weightlifters are based. And historically, it actually was where the army base was, and that's why they all come from that area, because a lot of those families have historically been military families, and they kind of bred between themselves, and then there's just these superhuman
super
kind
athletes.
of Iranian strength athletes.
Sure, I wish I was bred from that.
And the interesting thing about it is they have such a huge respect in the socio-cultural sort of understanding of sport that strength is something to be respected. Whereas in Australia, I don't think that, or even particularly in Victoria, I'd say where AFL and South Australia, where it's more popular. If you go towards the northern states, it is probably a little bit more popular. And you guys, I know, have done a lot of interviews with like American or North American athletes and stuff like that. In North America, strength is culturally very well respected, and they start strength training very early. It's very well respected because it has like large transfer for sports like NFL, which is their biggest sport. And so I think like the big reason is it's cultural, and because we have lack of cultural understanding and lack of interest and respect for it, we hold some of the basic premises that it's not good, or because it's different to what we know.
The cultural thing is huge, isn't it? I mean, like, I see a distinction between American culture and Australian culture, and this is very, very generalised, but like Australian culture is very much, come on, mate, don't get ahead of yourself, just chill out, have a beer, all this sort of thing. Where America's kind of like, the way I see it is like,
get some
economy, get some, bigger, better, that sort of stuff. Like the bigger, the jock, like the homecoming king is essentially like the biggest dude, all this sort of stuff. We're like, the most popular kid, especially in my school, was like some fat larrikin. like it's just a real good bloke that everyone got around,
When did you lose all that weight in the end?
Well, I mean, yeah, look, it was a while ago.
But hang on, but there is, okay, so let's delve deeper into the old wives' tale of children starting children too young. It always goes back to the growth plates being damaged in a kid. Surely you know.
No, there's no evidence for that at all.
Yeah, so let's talk about it.
Well, the hard thing is there actually isn't any evidence. So essentially it's debunked by the fact that no one can prove that it actually is true. There is, like, obviously, if you're placing huge loads through growth plates, essentially it actually may be a stimulus for increased growth. It'll definitely be a stimulus for increased bone density. That's been shown quite strongly, even in youth populations, that younger athletes who have been exposed to resistance training have higher bone density than peers who haven't been exposed. But there is just absolutely no evidence that says that it's true. There also isn't probably anything that says that it's false, but at the same time, there's nothing going either way. So
it's guilty until proven innocent,
exactly.
rather than the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. So there doesn't seem to be any strong evidence suggesting that that's the case. Now, with that in mind, I think it's also been heavily influenced by some of the types of sports in which they do expose people to either resistance training or higher load training over time from an early age. So things like gymnastics or weightlifting. Now, you have to probably put into context the fact that the countries that have had success in those sports have probably been doping kids from a very young age. Now, that probably has had an effect on their ability to actually reach full mature height. So, but that's a completely separate issue.
So,
and like the example I always give people, I always think it's a funny example, is Salimi, the Iranian lifter. What is he, 6'7"? How tall was he going to be if he started weightlifting? He didn't start weightlifting, 8'7".
No, he was on track to be. He was on track to be 105 foot 97 and a half.
Yeah. So like,
it was literally a building.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's right. But just the thing of, from comparing a sedentary lifestyle to a sporting lifestyle, someone who exposes their body to higher resistance and more load is definitely going to have a greater risk of injury than a sedentary lifestyle. But I really feel like people make those comparisons all the time. It's like, if I was just sitting down on the couch all the time and I was looking at you playing soccer or something, I'm like, soccer's real shit for you. Look at all the injuries you've had. It's like, yeah, maybe you'd be sitting on the couch for 4 hours every day, I just feel like that old wives' tale comes from people that generally are very ignorant about the gym and go, this is bad for you. Well,
don't squat below parallel.
Yeah, all that sort of shit.
Fat,
when it's
fat
like,
makes you fat.
Yeah,
all the silly
when
old
the person
stuff
who's telling me that is like pretty overweight themselves.
That's a very, very broad generalisation.
Yeah.
I like it. Hypothetically, it's right. Yeah, I'm with you. Fuck that.
So
that
generally,
that person.
Yeah. No, look. The example I always have is I remember a lady coming up to me and she said, "Hey, can you teach me how to brace in a squat?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can teach you how to brace." And then I started, saying, squeeze your butt, make sure your spine's nice and neutral, breathe in diaphragmatically and tense your abs nice and hard and then go for broke. And she was saying, this isn't the way to do it, And number one, I was so close to saying, well, have a look at yourself in the mirror, pal. And number two, now she's listening, I apologise, Amelia. No, that's rough. I'd say, how's the way you've been doing it getting anywhere? But number two, she was saying, the way you're teaching me is just the weightlifting way to do it. Apparently the right way to do it is just sucking your belly button in. I was so close to saying, like, well, if you have a look at weightlifters, they can hold 300 and whatever plus kegs on their body. And the way you're doing it, apparently when you sneeze, you bulge a disc. So it's just those things that my question is, which I will say to you, is there's a lot of misconceptions about all this sort of stuff. And even on a more general topic, you get into like physios, and a lot of physios, can the idea of
do you have a question? Do you want me to jump in here, mate?
So essentially, how do you spell your last name? I did have a question. I just lost it. I actually lost it, and you were looking at me so seriously. I was like, fuck, Johnny's looking at me here. This is not my role. Shit. Oh, this is so classic.
Hey, I do have a question for you. We talked about starting kids young in
trigger.
Starting kids young on drugs, say like in say Eastern European cultures and like Chinese. It's all speculation because we're not there in the rooms. Some of them have been busted doing so.
No, it's not really speculation. There's been a couple of reports that have been released that actually show that it was happening
They all do
pretty
it.
systematically.
Yes, okay, sorry. So that's right. So it was happening systematically. So I always wonder, like,
awesome.
like CJ Cummings in the US is the 14-year-old kid who clean and jerks 180 kilos at like 69 or whatever. Like he's the first real American that's looking like, oh, he's going to be an Olympic gold medalist. He's a world record holder in the junior worlds now. So, but you know, people look at CJ Cummins and they're like, he's got to be on the juice. He's got to be on the juice. America obviously don't have as big of a history with drug taking, but when I see this, like CJ Cummins, I'm always kind of thinking, well, hang on a sec. What are his parents doing at this point? Like, is he getting on the gear at 7 years old, 7 years old? Like, if they're putting children into strength training sports or sprinting sports or whatever, and they're using performance enhancing drugs, like, how young can you do that to a kid? Like, that's the thing I don't understand.
Yeah, I probably don't know enough about it to sort of give you a really strong answer.
Well, you clearly started from a very young age, John.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know essentially what the sort of the justifications may be. As I said, there is evidence that shows that it was happening from very young age in some of these Eastern European and Chinese athletes, and there was a recent one that I saw that was talking about a Chinese sports school that was giving kids vitamins, and they were 7 and 8 years old, and they weren't allowed to not take their vitamins after their morning tea kind of training session.
That's crazy.
Which is very, very scary.
You know what it could be. I spoke to. We had a private trip to the CrossFit Games last year. This year, the year's not over, and got to know some of the guys really well. And I was talking about Lu Xiaojun and Tian Tiao and all these Chinese weightlifters, and these guys from China, most of the group from China, some of them knew Lu Xiaojun.
They knew him.
Some of them knew who he was.
Righto.
And most of them didn't, and only one or two of them knew Tian Tiao, which is he's like the second
85 kilo.
you know. Yeah. And I was like, hang on a second, but you guys are the best in the world. This is your national sport, and they said, nah, it's not really our national sport. People, the Western world thinks it's our national sport. Basketball is our national sport. So we had a guy named Weiwei, who that's literally his name, Weiwei.
That's
Weiwei.
awesome.
Yeah, but he was a lad.
Yeah,
he was like
yeah.
a Chinese version of us. So I got to know him pretty well. And Weiwei came from a family with a decent amount of money, like not a rich family, but a decent amount of money. And if you've got a decent amount of money, what happens is your children go and they play basketball because it's the national sport. Everyone loves basketball. It's crazy how much they love it. And then for the girls, it's basketball, but there's another sport for the girls. I can't quite remember. But the kids that go into these sports schools. These sports schools take kids from the rural areas with no money, and they say, hey, we want to give your kid an education. And they take 40 kids from... And these families can't put their kids through school otherwise.
Yeah.
So they take them through and they go, right, you're going to be a gymnast, you're going to be a weightlifter, you're going to be this, you're going to be that.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that maybe there's a reason why, say... Because the parents are the big thing that... this is the question I wanted to get John's take on it, because it's such a dumbfounding question for people from a good upbringing with parents that love him. You're like... My mum wouldn't fucking let me take anabolic steroids when I'm 7 years old. Like, it's bad parenting, but you can kind of see that if they're coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds,
they want to give them any sort of help up.
Yeah, any help, and you get a free education, and then they're in the system.
And
then,
I think that's the big thing that, as you said, people like ourselves who come from, a socioeconomic background that doesn't dictate that we need to take these kind of risks, we can't fathom how we would make such a decision. Whereas, I look at, my sport, track and field, or even, sports like cycling and the ones that have really been heavily involved in the drugs over years, you tend to see that a lot of the athletes that make these decisions, it's not a hard decision for them because the alternative is poverty. So you can either be something or you can be nothing.
Yeah.
Even the rise of, say, the Jamaican sprint team, it's very likely that a lot of it is drugs.
Yeah, well, everyone bar Usain Bolt and Johan Blake have been busted, even Asafa Power.
No, Johan Blake got busted. Asafa Power got busted.
Usain Bolt hasn't got busted, has he?
No, he hasn't.
Like the only one.
Do you reckon it's a matter of time?
No, to be honest with you, the sad thing is, and it's sort of come out with all the IAAF stuff, it's kind of was like, basically it's run like fucking FIFA. It's all very sketchy. If he was busted, they wouldn't actually release it. Because
Really?
No, it would destroy the sport.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It's kind of the
definitely.
Lance Armstrong kind of case, and that's why his
completely
issue
destroyed.
was suppressed for so long. The UCI knew that Lance and all his team were geared up to the eyeballs. They know that all of them are geared up to the eyeballs, but they just
I've never heard that before.
But they just
Juice to the gills.
yeah, they know that if they release all of this information and it becomes common knowledge, that some of the heroes in the sport, and this is what happened with cycling. Cycling's been completely dragged through the mud because you had a guy who 7 times Tour de France winner.
The Michael Jordan.
He's the Michael Jordan of the sport.
Yeah.
And he's a hero. He had cancer. He came back. It's such an amazing story, inspiration to millions of
Crazy, isn't
people.
it?
And it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
It is insane. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you and I were
it's-
having this topic of discussion when we were talking about whether or not CrossFit should become a Olympic sport. Because, on one level, it would be great because it would make it way more competitive and would open up to the whole world and it would be great exposure. But on the other hand, and I tend to agree, is that I feel like because it is, there's a CrossFit HQ and there are people out there that sort of run the show. I definitely believe that there would be some people taking gear that people would know about,
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
I always thought that. I read an article in the Herald Sun once.
And it would ruin the sport because they're probably heroes. For a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of people,
right.
you know?
I read on the Usain Bolt thing. There was after he won London, so 8 medals in now. Or was London the last? Yeah, was London
London
his second?
2012.
Yeah,
2012, yeah.
So after he won his 8th
Yeah,
gold,
yeah.
or whatever his 7th, whatever he'd won,
Yeah.
They had an article that said it was "Say It Ain't So, Usain," and it was just an article not accusing him of being on gear, but saying how much it would crush the sport if it was.
Yeah.
Because you look
That's
at
what I'm saying, yeah.
you look at Ben Johnson, Marion Jones. I can't remember. You would know better than me, but all the greatest sprinters. Carl Lewis in the end got.
Yeah,
He
It's
was
grey
such a
area.
guy, wasn't he?
what's that?
He was technically not, wasn't he? Or
He got off on like a technicality.
Yeah.
They said it was
Yeah.
some bullshit that he drank or whatever. It was more of a stimulant, but they said it was in some medicine or something.
Yeah,
he
but
fell
it's
on the syringe.
But
Yeah.
it's how you say Lance Armstrong got taken down. He's the Michael Jordan of racing, and he went
Sure.
down. But for sprinting, it feels like before Michael Jordan in basketball, it went Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. Say that's the best ever in history as they get to the new title of the best ever. It's like Wilt Chamberlain went down. Bill Russell got busted. Larry Bird got popped. Magic Johnson got popped. That's what it's been like for sprinting. Every time you have this hero, it's like, oh yeah, they're great, they're fucking awesome. Boom. So it's like that. It's getting to that point in weightlifting now. That's why they changed all the weight categories, and now we're back at square one.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Even still, though, it is still amazing to watch someone move an extraordinary amount of weight. I mean, like Dimitri Klokov for now. And I'm just speculating. I've got absolutely no idea. I'm assuming that now he's retired. Now he's probably doing whatever he wants, which is totally up to him. I don't know.
Dimitri's a big listener to the show, so he'll probably bite your whole entire face off
Bite
next
my
time he's in
toe.
Melbourne.
He's a good man, and old mate Dim. Had a couple of beers last week actually, and but look, and I would do it. I don't even know if he's done it or not. But I'm trying backpedaling here. But look,
John's got that same look on his face.
Irrespective, it's just amazing to watch someone move an extraordinary amount of weight. And with sprinters, I feel like even though tons of people have got busted, it doesn't really take away how spectacular the 100-meter sprint at the Olympic Games is.
No, that's right.
It's true, but at the same time, I think the big, and this is where I think there's a new sort of concept they're coming up with, and this comes down to, as I said, the sociology of the sport. I think the big thing that they need to sort of push is more of the racing and competition side of things rather than necessarily the performance or the time.
Yeah.
I think if they can get that balance right, the times will become less important, and therefore the rush to actually drive those times down may change. Because at the moment, the ability for people to continuously get better is going to get more and more difficult over time. And then the risk becomes that they're going to be pushing to all sorts of extremes to try and get there.
It's interesting, isn't it? You always wonder when that world record will stop to stop to get broken. But
Do you think that will happen? There will become a point where humans will not be able to.
It won't stop in the sense that, like, technology will continue to improve. So even though humans, we don't evolve quick enough for that change to occur, the setting in which you'll get extraordinary performances is where you're getting a congregation of performances around that world record. You have an exceptional talent that comes through. The technology continues to improve with, say, like the track surface. The actual stadium design, so the wind conditions are good.
Yeah.
The fractal taking
the little
of
things.
the like might break it down to 3 fractions rather than 2.
It's all these little things that, like, as that technology improves, the opportunity to run faster will continue to be there. But it's just that those gaps will get smaller. And the thing that sort of made Usain so amazing is he took a world record from, if essentially he broke it himself, it went down from...
was it 9.89?
Maurice Green had it at 979 in 1999. Then it went down to 77 with his Safa Powell. Then they pushed it down to Bob pushed it down to 972.
Yeah.
Then at the Olympics in 2008, he went 969, and then he went bang and ran 958 in 2009.
That's fast.
Like to drop it by 0.1 is just ridiculous. I think we will see people go into the 9.5s, and it may not be for another 10 or 20 years, but it'll be 1 or 2 hundredths. It's not going to be. I don't suspect that someone will come out and drop it to 9.4 in one go, but it is possible, but I would suggest it's unlikely.
It's fast, isn't it?
It's crazy the sports stars that we've had in the last period of our lives. Like, we've been able to see Usain Bolt, we've been able to see Michael Jordan, we've been able to see Kelly Slater, Roger Federer, not Rod Federer.
Rod.
But cool. So, did you have any?
Let's jump into some good about the science.
GBS. I know this is John's favourite segment, so we don't want to get him out of here without missing out on it.
That's very true. Yeah. Alrighty. The good. So for all listeners at home, some current affairs, breaking up the serious chat about drugs that Johnny's obviously so in depth with. The good, the bad, and the science. So the good: baby goat can only truly relax when dressed as a duck. It's not kidding around. Polly, a 6-month-old goat in New Jersey, is blind and experiences anxiety.
Do you want to do this segment, John, or should we just move on?
I know. I was thinking about that.
His face
literally looks like he can only truly relax when he's dressed as a duck. Okay, so this goat has anxiety. But if she puts on a duck costume, she's feeling nice and ducky. Polly came to the Goats of Anarchy Animal Sanctuary 4 months ago with some very serious problems, according to her manager, Leanne. When she was born, she was tiny and blind and couldn't nurse. Her owners worked away from home and didn't have time to bottle feed her, so she soon discovered many mental health issues, including severe anxiety and repetitive behaviours. However, when she was put on... Look at that face. That's gold. So when they put a duck costume on her, she was able to truly relax. Now, Johnny, I know you're obviously very excited about the good here. Which animal would you be and why to help yourself truly relax?
I'm not even answering that.
It's so good.
Oh, shit.
Oh, God.
What do you got
damn
next,
it.
Tommy? What do you got next?
Nah, give us one. Give us an animal. Give us an animal.
No.
Flog. Alrighty. Fuck you.
Guess the flog.
Yeah, the bad. Now, you'd be an eagle, wouldn't you?
Come on, move. Let's
move
what
on.
do you got next?
Well, what about you?
I'd be... I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you got for the bad? I'm excited for the bad.
All right. Okay. So, politician who criticised squirrels gets hospitalised.
I thought it was going to be like politician who criticises Donald Trump's political campaign.
Oh, God damn it. This is ridiculous.
Quick, right. What do you got?
Politician who criticised squirrels gets hospitalised by a squirrel. Maybe. Oh, okay. Maybe Howard Brookins Jr. will think twice before he criticises squirrels. Okay. Oh, God damn it. Okay. In October, the older man for Chicago's 21st Ward went on a public tirade about aggressive squirrels, gripping the fury critters kept eating through the city's supplied garbage cans. Oh, God. But Brooklands had no idea just how aggressive squirrels were. On November the 13th, Alderman found himself in the hospital with a skull fracture after a squirrel leapt onto the path of Brooklands, wrapping itself in the spokes and causing him to flip over the handlebars. I can think of no other reason for the squirrel's actions other than it was like a suicide bomber getting revenge. My question to you guys is, have you ever experienced a extreme rapid case of karma? And if so, what happened? Johnny.
It's funny you say that. We had this discussion on Saturday.
About squirrels.
I was at the track, on the warm-up track, and we were talking about how when you badmouth people, karma gets you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a discus came over the fence and hit me.
Actually,
pretty much straight away.
Fuck, man. Like a real
What were
heavy...
you saying about discus before that?
It's for plubs.
Yeah, so, karma got us.
Yeah, shit. So how... Did it hurt?
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
Fair enough. Alrighty, the science. Public doctors alike confused about food allergies. Alright, let's get into some serious conversation here. Our grasp of food allergy science is as jumbled as a can of mixed nuts. While there are tantalising clues on how food allergies emerge and might be prevented, misconceptions are plentiful and broad conclusions are lacking. As a result, both the general public and medical community are confused and ill-informed about food allergies and what to do about them. Most prevention strategies and many tests used to diagnose a food allergy aren't supported by scientific evidence and should be abandoned. We are much more in the dark than we thought, Virginia Stallings says, a co-editor of the news report released on the 30th of November. So, basically in the last 50 years, food allergies have spiked ridiculously. I have an anaphylaxis to nuts. People say it's to do with Western cultures, and I've spoken to a few naturopaths, and they always say it's that sort of stuff. What do you guys feel is the biggest contributing factor to food allergies and why they become so prominent in recent history? It's a tough one.
I definitely have no idea whatsoever why that would be.
Some people say it's like, so anaphylaxis is the highest reported it's the most high reported in Australia, and people were saying it's to do with the ozone layer or whatever, but you hear about anaphylaxis, and apparently that just wasn't a thing 50, 60 years ago. Like my old man always says that it wasn't even around, John, do you have any light on this?
No.
And that was the good, the bad, and the science. We'll move on. I'm never going to do that fucking segment with you again. It was the exact same way the first time. Johnny, can you shed some light? Nah.
It got what it deserved.
Normally it goes down pretty well.
All right, so what are you spending your most time on at the moment then, Johnny? You've got your own physio clinic, and then what's your biggest sport outside of that? Like, what are you spending most time in at the moment?
You mean personally or with business?
No, like in
well, everybody knows that you don't do any trade.
In your business and in your professional life.
As I said, the biggest thing that we're probably mostly involved in is track and field. As I said, we work with a couple of sporting clubs. We work with rowers and some AFL players more on an individual basis. The biggest thing that we're trying to do at the moment is trying to create an environment where there is as much support structures around athletes as possible. So, in some respects, trying to give them a pretty integrated approach in terms of their preparation and their health. So, for instance, we do a lot of work with track and field athletes from other coaches. Now, obviously, they've got the technical coach that probably sets their program, but we'll work closely with their coach to help set up things like their gym programming. Mm-hmm. Some of those coaches have really good experience with the gym, but may not actually always have access to spending the time with the athletes when they're doing it. Mm-hmm. So we may facilitate that for them and sort of give them feedback on what's going on and assist with actually coaching some of those things. We obviously tend to then look after sort of any injury management stuff or soft tissue management. We do a lot of the other thing that we've sort of started to integrate into the practice of what we do is sort of some more sport-specific mobility or yoga type stuff. I was telling Tom earlier that we've got a physio that's working with us who did a yoga apprenticeship that took him sort of 3 or 4 years to complete, and he's been able to really integrate that really well in terms of how athletes can manage a lot of their flexibility and soft tissue issues.
Right.
It's sort of like a personalised. We do them in a group setting, but it's sort of like a personalised ROM-WOD kind of session. For those people who understand, what that is, and we're seeing really, really big success with that.
Really?
We're talking before we started recording about the idea that and like why we think some of those things are occurring, and it's been actually quite interesting. We actually did a short podcast about a week or two ago talking about some of this stuff, but the changes that we're seeing in people's movement patterns, postures, flexibility has been really interesting, and they're starting to be more and more science coming out, looking at and discussing what some of the mechanisms behind that are.
And what is some of that?
Well, like for the listeners that are aware of sort of ideas like mechanotransduction, which is how mechanical stress is placed onto a tissue or a cell, and the response that has, it tends to be aligned with the stress that's placed on it. So, for instance, with something like flexibility training or yoga or whatever, the actual stretching to that cell or like the muscle cell, over time, the long-term response is to actually add sarcomeres within a series. So it actually lengthens the tissue. Obviously, and the other big interesting area that we've been discussing, which at the moment
lengthens the tissue.
So
lengthens
actually,
the tissue in a general sense. The tissue
like
actually
gets longer and stays longer.
Yeah,
it's
Really?
actually strengthening it.
Yeah. So it actually will add more, like sarcomere is obviously the basic unit to a muscle fiber. It actually adds sarcomeres into.
Yeah.
I'm doing this with my hands, and I'm realizing we're recording audio.
Yeah. So for all listeners, just have a look.
Yeah. So it's adding tissue in series, which means it's actually lengthening the tissue,
That's insane, man.
And a longer sarcomere, and there's research that showed this even as early 2000s by some Japanese researchers, that showed that a longer muscle tissue is, the greater the shortening velocity will be. So they found in, say, Japanese sprinters that fascicle length, and i.e., the length of that tissue, as I said, those sarcomeres in series, the longer that is, the faster their shortening velocity was. And this was in their quadriceps muscles.
So like how powerful and fast that can contract.
Yeah. So the idea being that, if you have longer fascicles, you have greater shortening velocity, and therefore potentially, you can actually move your limb faster.
Yep.
So it sort of fits. This is obviously very anecdotal, but it fits with some of the sports that actually have some of these more like what you would call static stretching kind of basis to them. Things like martial arts, gymnastics. If you in terms of measurement of limb velocities, they've probably got some of the highest measures ever recorded, and they have a very strong static stretching basis to what they do. But people don't. Everyone sort of went through. There was a period, and I think this is actually where you were going with the question before.
Yeah.
That physios fucked a lot of things up for people, right? We put out a lot of bullshit research that showed not much, and I think it was very driven by trying to perpetuate our own, importance, which is, I guess, what everyone does.
Yeah.
But said things like, "Oh, stretching doesn't do anything," or even there was, exercise science data that said, stretching reduces your force output prior to a session. Yeah, well, maybe it does if you do a lot of, static stretching before the session, but post the session, it actually may restore, length, and actually over time, it's going to improve your fascicle length and therefore your shortening velocity. So maybe it's just a timing issue.
Yeah.
The other big thing that we've been discussing in relation to this is that we think that and it sometimes it almost, I think it fits with some of the skill acquisition side of things, is when you take someone into a position or you take them into a posture that they haven't been in before, I think that what it does is unlock some of the neurological sort of inhibition that tends to occur. And we're talking about this, say, in relation to weightlifting, and I'm sure you've had this experience before, is say you're practicing a snatch position or your catch position, and you're just not getting it, you're not getting in the right position, then all of a sudden, a coach or someone who you're working with, a training partner says, "I'll try this," and you hit the position. All of a sudden, you know how to get into that position, and it's very easy to get back to that.
Yeah.
You won't do it every time, but all of a sudden, it's very easy. They haven't probably changed your physical structure so that you're now more mobile or more flexible. They're just giving you an input, and your brain now realizes, okay, that's how I get to that position.
Yeah.
And we're sort of seeing the similar thing happen is we set someone up in a pose or a stretch or a position, and they attain a position they may not have attained for a long time or ever, and then all of a sudden they've got extra range, and you're like, we haven't changed that tissue just yet. Like, it's not like we've been sitting there for 7 hours stretching
You can't physically have done that quickly.
So we think there's a huge sort of neurological inhibition effect that we're turning off or even on or whatever it may be. And that's interesting. And the other big area that we're sort of finding very interesting as well is potentially, the effect that some of these movement patterns have on hormonal profiles. So there's some discussion that certain poses may actually increase sympathetic nervous system action, sympathetic being, your fight or flight response, and an adrenal release and stuff like that. So potentially, and then the other way around, like we've been using it quite a lot for recovery, using some of the poses that are more parasympathetic, shutting the system down, actually have a really great effect on improving things like sleep quality for recovery.
Right.
All the athletes that we're dealing with at the moment, these are high level athletes. Like these are athletes that I am expecting, barring, major injuries or whatever, other sort of issues relating to not wanting to actually do it, are probably going to be representing Australia in, World, Commonwealth, Olympic Games
sport,
in the next sort of 4 to 5 years. So, and they're reporting things like they do the session and that night they sleep really well. And for those who take any interest in recovery mechanisms, sleep's probably your biggest recovery tool.
Yeah.
It's hard to link that directly to the positions of stretching, though, isn't it?
No, it is. But,
Yeah.
It's very clear when, for instance, they do the session and then the next day they're like, I slept really well. And then the day after that, they're like, I didn't sleep as well.
Changed.
It's pretty clear
you
to probably
can join the
suggest.
dots. So would you say, you said that there's one set of poses and so forth in yoga that will jack up your fight or flight response, and then there's the total opposite, which will make you sleep well. So are you saying that you have, or you're looking at possibly, say, an athlete is competing or just got a big day of training, they do a 6 a.m. yoga session and do the fight or flight style, and then
not so much that. Like, and as I said, we're experimenting with it at the moment, and this isn't conclusive. It's sort of we're postulating and coming up with some ideas. But this guy Jack, he's even started coming to some of the track sessions that I do with the training squad that I sort of coach. And we're starting to put in some of those things pre-training. So I'm not saying they have to be up at 6 to do it. They might be doing it as part of their normal session. They're doing their warm-up stuff. They're doing some mobility work. He started to give them some ideas of like, okay, maybe put this, and this in for you. One, it's going to help with some injury management stuff. But two, this may actually help improve the quality of your session.
Right.
So
it's not a session of yoga. It's like in your mobility and your warm-up, you're doing these yoga poses for a minute, a minute there, and so forth.
And so the aim that we've got is that hopefully it will have some sort of priming effect, that we can sort of input that and try and ramp them up so that they can have a higher quality session.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done any training recently?
Not a hell of a lot, no.
Did you ever go back into it? Remembering our squatting off sessions, mate?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for you is you lose.
Well, I mean, just look after the range I have to get down to below parallel comparison here. You're doing a quarter squat, pal. You should get back into it, though.
Oh, I do a bit of training. I train sort of 2 or 3 times a week, but it's pretty informal. It's mostly running at the moment. I tend to go down the track and do. I was saying this to someone the other day. Most of the time these days, because the time that I would allocate to training is usually spent on either business stuff or coaching myself. The time that I would be at the track doing my own training, I generally am coaching.
Yeah, takes away from the things that you're maybe more passionate about.
Yeah, but in saying that, like the times that I train, often what I'm doing is actually trialing things that I may be using for my athletes.
Yeah, I'm going to try and run really, really fast this time.
Yeah. So, if there's skill acquisition stuff that I'm working on, I'll sort of play with a few different variants of it and then look at things like, okay, how am I going to cue that so the athlete understands, what's going to work for them.
Yeah.
And then playing with the different ideas. I'm not sure if you guys have in the coaching stuff that you guys are doing, but there's a lot of evidence coming out these days looking at things like internal and external cueing.
Yeah, for sure. I remember you and I were speaking about this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right, what do you mean by that exactly?
So, internal cues are things that are probably more directed to you or your physical body parts. It's like move your arm here, shift your hips here, do this. Whereas external cues are more in reference to external items. So, explode off the ground or throw the bar into the air or if you're running,
reference points
that are external.
Yeah, they're both well suited to different levels of athletes, aren't they?
They are, but the evidence tends to be showing at the moment that external cues, whether the person has experience or not, the external cues tend to get greater performance.
Well,
which is interesting. A lot of so even for instance the paper that I was looking at, which was by a guy named Nick Winkelman, he's now based at
Nicky the Wink, they call him.
I think he's Irish Rugby now, but I met him when I went to the US. He was based at Exos, which is a large sort of performance center. They do a lot of like NFL combine and stuff like that. But his research was looking at acceleration speed particularly for NFL combine preparation. And they were finding external cues like push the ground away from you or, whatever it might be was working better than, like push your leg into the ground.
Well, most people, I'm assuming, would respond better to that externally unless for your high. The way I feel myself personally is that like I would never give, or I would try to sway away from internal cues for beginning athletes because they would just probably have poor body awareness.
And that's probably what the evidence is showing.
Yeah.
It probably is working more in that beginner or intermediate. I think the more experienced you get, the better you are at actually ascertaining, okay, this is my body part. I know what I should or shouldn't be feeling. But yeah, I think also at times when you're introducing something new, for me, it's always about like, how do I give them the most simple instruction? And part of that often is find an external cue that works.
Yep.
But sometimes the funny thing is the external cue that works for one person might be absolutely fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely, for sure.
Like it's almost wrong.
Yeah.
But for them, that's the reference point that they need.
Yeah.
Like it sounds really dumb, but like say you're doing it, some person is just getting in the wrong position with the bar, and you might even say like, swing the bar towards the wall.
Yeah.
Right. And it's completely wrong if you actually think about what you're saying, but it gets them in the exact right position that
they
you
end
want.
up pulling the bar aggressively. They can't actually pull it towards the wall, but they pull it aggressively and it ends up perfectly in the slot above the head or whatever.
Yeah. And even though like you wouldn't say that to another person because they'd be making a mistake and that would actually cause them to do it incorrectly, but for that person it works well.
Yeah,
I can think of a few examples of times I've said there seems to be this big thing in CrossFit where pushing the knees out, where I feel that like, and it was with you, I remember that we helped my squat because I was thinking about pushing the knees out and using the glutes, all this sort of stuff where I was pushing them out too far and I was getting lateral knee pain because there was just no stacking and there wasn't any, just good, whatever I'm trying to say here. But like, there's been a lot of times where I've had to say push your knees in, because it's just, people are just squatting like too far out as opposed to just doing
and
push your knees in or just like let your knees stay?
Well, no, I have to say sometimes push the knees in.
Bring your knees in.
I'd say
push your knees in. I'm like, that's
no,
the case.
Then I'll just
there we go.
Good. Chest down.
That's exactly what I'm.
A little pop in the back.
That's what I'm exactly saying though. Like it's the wrong cue.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
But for some people, it might
but
work,
for some people, that because they've potentially been overcued so much the other way.
Good point.
Do you actually need to actually overcue them the wrong direction?
Yeah.
And for you, you're like, that's completely wrong. Like, why would you do that?
You know how to squat.
That's right.
Because if you did that, you'd probably hurt yourself.
you.
And fall
I
over.
get my knees into it. I'm like, I'll do that. Do exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Some people.
But I've said that, and because they're just not squatting the way we're meant to squat, evolutionary speaking. We're just supposed to bob down and up, like a toddler would squat. Would a toddler wouldn't squat with his knees out? I'm sure you would have an understanding. I know, mate. I've made about 3 gags without you being short today. Sorry, pal. Classic.
We got to get you out of here at some point, Johnny. As much as I'm loving this conversation, I reckon we make this bloke a regular. It's going to really pain you because it's going to be.
I love it. I love having little stats.
I reckon we make it every few months.
We can make you a Acl Injuries.
I feel like this is. Totally different conversation to the first conversation we had, but
it is.
It was
absolutely.
We were speaking about steroids for like the whole time.
But But since we didn't get you on the first show that we had, we didn't go live. So we will finish off with 6 from 6. We know you did it last time, but we'll get our questions in, and our listeners can get to know you a little better. And then next time we won't have to go through it. But
and I won't write you a song again next time, mate. So that's some good incentive.
Use the same one.
I'll write you another one. Yeah, I'll just use the same one.
Alrighty, so I feel bad cutting this conversation off because we got it's been such a great conversation, but obviously all things have to end at some point. But Johnny, so your favourite travel destination on the planet, where is that?
Well, I think I said this to you last time. I'm probably less travelled than what I'd like. So at the moment, I'd say the best place that I really enjoyed, and probably more from a cultural aspect, it's obviously quite close to what we know here, but I really enjoyed San Francisco when I was there. Felt that the people were awesome. They were doing some really cool things. Obviously, it's an innovative hub with Silicon Valley being so close. So I would say that's a place that I really enjoyed spending time, and I'd definitely like to go back. In terms of holiday things, I'm definitely sort of interested to do a bit of travel through Europe and stuff like that. I've got some family there that I haven't sort of actually ventured out to see.
Where is your family? Where's Nicolosi?
The family is actually in Sicily.
Yeah, right.
And actually, there is a town at the base of Mount Etna called Nicolosi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it has any relation to us, but I'm definitely going to.
But you'll claim it anyway.
Yeah, definitely going to be standing in front of the sign.
Yeah. Do you speak Italian?
I speak a little bit of dialect.
Oh, yeah.
From the 50s when my grandparents came out.
I can just literally hear you going, "Ba-ba-da-boo-ba-da."
Yeah. My next question is dream travel destination, somewhere you haven't been, top of your bucket list.
Well, I think that, as I said, probably I want to go to Sicily and spend some time there.
Sure.
There's a bit of history there with the family, and there is still some family there. So I think that's definitely the next place that I'll go, and I think we're sort of planning to do that next year at some point.
Awesome. My next question is any books that you recommend for our listeners. They can be a novel to take your mind off things. It can be an autobiography. They can be a self-help kind of book. Anything.
I think we spoke about this last time, but yeah, definitely my favourite novel sort of book is Shantaram.
Ooh, we did talk about that. My all-time favourite also. Yeah,
so if anyone does have the time, because it is a long book, I think it's about 1,000 pages or so, but it's an absolute ripper, so I think if you've got the time, definitely read that one. The other one that I quite like is a book called Essentialism, which is just about making sure that you sort of hone in on the things that are important and get rid of the superfluous items. But yeah.
Cool. Well, that's it from me.
Yeah. Biggest role model as a kid?
I don't know, actually. Parents are always role models.
Yep.
Definitely the sort of one of my teachers was a really big role model for me, who actually is my best mate's dad. Right. He was a teacher at the school. But yeah, no one that's sort of, none of the fancy sort of superstar role models are sort of.
Do you have a current one, an inspiration you look up to in your working environments, I guess? Or?
No, there's definitely some big influences. I wouldn't say they're necessarily role models. I think, like this is me just being stubborn. I guess you sort of want to set your own pathway a little bit. But it's more, there's definitely people that I have a lot of respect for, and anytime they sort of, any information or comes out or they put on a conference or a seminar, or they're talking at something, I try and sort of chase that down and find that. But not necessarily role models as such.
All right. How about some things you like to do when you have some spare time? Some downtime.
Reading is probably the biggest one. I tend to read a lot more sort of research and sports performance stuff these days, which I guess I said is probably more related to work. I try to venture out and read a little bit more widely at times. I quite like sort of more of the basic sciences and technology stuff. So even just some more popular sort of magazines like Wired and stuff like that, I find really interesting. And then, if I'm really sort of wanting some downtime, I think, as we spoke about this last time, TV shows, Netflix, stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you get out much?
I'm not a social person.
Really?
To be honest with you. If you haven't you can't tell.
Yeah. You're a good man.
No, it's good. Yeah, I'm not someone who's out all the time. But yeah.
And finally, mate, 3 people dead or alive to dinner. Who would they be?
I forgot about this question.
I remember you said, you didn't say Hitler, did you?
No.
Did you say Hitler? All right. Mate, a lot of people say Hitler, honestly.
Hitler's our number one.
He's the number one, isn't he? Yeah. And then
Genuinely.
ironically, Jesus is our number two.
Genuinely.
Probably says a lot about the people you got.
I know.
We've got to stop having the Ku Klux
Neo,
Klan members
Aryan,
and
Nazi, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Nazi warmongers.
They're all just interesting people.
What? I
Party,
actually forgot about this
party.
question. I think, who did I say last time? I think one of them, was Socrates.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did say Socrates, yes.
The other one was, actually, I said Robert De Niro just because I think he's a mad dog.
Yeah.
I don't remember
And
the
then I
third
asked you if you could do a Robert De Niro impersonation.
Yeah, I just said no. I don't remember who the third one was.
Yeah. Well, do you want to pick one for us now? Just go off the top of your head.
Oh, you can come along, Tommy.
All right. Yeah, I'll come along. That'd be great.
There we go.
Excellent, Johnny. Good man. Well, where can people find you on social media and anything you'd like to plug? Your podcast. Probably give that a plug.
The easiest is probably just our website, melbourneathleticdevelopment.com.au. As I said, our blogs and podcasts are up on there. There's links to sort of all our basic social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Yep.
If anyone wants to contact us or has any questions about sort of what we do, feel free to hit us up.
What is
there.
your Insta?
Melbourne
Athletic
Yeah,
Development.
Melbourne Athletic
Oh,
Development.
okay.
Started a podcast.
We've been doing...
It's good.
We started it in...
6 months ago.
Sort of, about May or so.
Oh, did you? What's it called?
Just Melbourne Athletic Development.
Cool.
It's real basic. I've just been putting it up on SoundCloud.
Mm-hmm.
It generally is sort of topics more related to sort of physio or sports performance stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
They're pretty short. They're probably only about sort of 10 to 15 minutes, but we try and sort of address topics that we find interesting and that we think maybe sort of have some interest to people who particularly have maybe a little bit more of an affinity with sort of injury stuff or items like that. But
Awesome.
we don't try and make them too technical. So, a lot of our clients that come in, have definitely listened to them and found them, interesting.
And it's not on iTunes, only SoundCloud.
Just SoundCloud, just something real basic.
Look it up. Yep.
Cool. That'll be good. Alrighty.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
Alrighty. And that's a wrap. Alrighty. Thanks
Guys.
for listening. Oh, shit, I forgot the guys part. Fuck.
Nah, do it again.
Oh, I never do that.
Just say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Alrighty, gang.
Oh,
fuck, I said gang. Gang.
Go on.
Right
Say
then,
it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Alrighty,
guys.
Alrighty, guys.
But it's okay. All right, we'll go with that.
If you like the show, if you liked and you're a first time listener, you love the show, then
Long-time
go
caller.
ahead and
Yeah.
subscribe for us. That would be very, very handy.
It'd be fantastic.
If you are a long time fan and haven't left us a rating and review, please do so.
Yep.
If you need anything from the show, heaps of nuggets of information in there, heaps of knowledge bombs, head to www.adventuretravel.com/radio. All the show notes will be in there. And don't forget to check out True Pride, True Pride. Don't forget to check out Carve. Check out True Pride as well. But don't forget to check out Carve.
But for today, just check out Garth.
Yeah, Carve. www.carve.ph/ADVF. And also head to audible.com to check out the world's biggest and best array of audiobooks.
Yes.
www.audibletrial.com/ADVF. Jeez, it's been
It's been good fun.
It's been a rough intro outro,
Yeah,
but it's
very
been
rough.
It's been good. I've had a good time.
But we'll talk to you next week.
We will.
Bye-bye.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.